Joining us now, MSNBC Capitol Hill reporter Kevin Fry. Also with us, congressional correspondent for the New York Times, Michael Gold. He's one of the reporters who broke this story initially about all of Santos's lies. Kevin, first to you, what else are we hearing from Santos, and does he actually have to pay that restitution back?
Well, I mean, that remains an open question. He certainly seems to believe that he doesn't necessarily have to, based on his comments you heard just within the last 24 hours or so. One of the things that has kind of been key here is that President Trump, in announcing this commutation, has really leaned in on the fabulous lies that, of course, Santos was known for. But it's important to remember that the reason he went to jail, the reason that he pled guilty, was financial crimes when it came to wire fraud and stealing, basically, and misappropriating people's financial donations. So here is some of what we heard from Santos just within the last 24 hours or so.
This isn't about, glitter stars and glam or going back to Congress. So it's really not. This is a very personal journey and road for me ahead. It is not going to be easy. People are going to like me. People are going to hate me. It doesn't matter whoever gets clemency in the future or whoever that person might be. I'm pretty confident if President Trump had pardoned Jesus Christ off the cross, he would have had critics. So that's just the reality of our country.
Santos not holding back there in hyping up the rhetoric, shall we say, since he left or returned to the public sphere. Now, Republicans on Capitol Hill are largely divided here on this issue. You've seen some top leaders not necessarily leaning in on criticizing him, but the Republicans from New York, who all entered Congress at the same time as Santos, who are many of them in swing districts, they have not been pleased with the decision for him to be released from prison. Here's just what we heard from one of them, Congressman Nick LaLota, saying George Santos didn't merely lie. He stole millions, defrauded an election, and his crimes, for which he pled guilty, warranted more than a 3-month sentence. He should devote the rest of his life to demonstrating remorse and making restitution to those he wronged. Now, Santos, for his part, has said that he is going to, quote, devote the remainder of his life to doing good. I can guarantee you that LaLota and others will be keeping a close eye on whether or not he holds up that promise.
And apparently also doing some cameos pretty immediately. We'll dig into that. Kevin Fry, thank you so much. Michael, talk to us about how all of this came to be. And do we know what was behind the president's thinking? Santos had been vocal about the fact that he wanted this.
Yeah, I think it's hard to know exactly what is in the president's head, but I will say he's sent 2 Truth Social posts about Santos, both of them comparing him to Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut. Trump has attacked Blumenthal for years over mischaracterizing his service record during the Vietnam War era, and Blumenthal sparred with the Attorney General in a congressional hearing. That prompted Trump to send a post saying there is a lying congressman who is in jail for 7 years, and he doesn't deserve to be there. It seems like the lies have been the focus here. But we also know that Marjorie Taylor Greene and other Republicans are really pushing for this as well.
There were certainly other Republicans pushing for this. But when you look at the way that Santos is out here immediately saying, well, my slate with the law is effectively clean, what does that tell you about how he's going to use this second chance, especially given the fact that he immediately went back to what he was doing before he went to prison, which is making money off of cameo appearances and basically telling people happy birthday and taped messages?
It was very striking that one of the first things that happened after Santos was released from prison was that he activated his Cameo account. I think we got a notification instantly that he was back, and there was a sentence on the bio that said, "I'm back," and exclamation points, and he hadn't made a public statement yet. You know, look, Santos says he's going to dedicate himself to prison reform. We'll see what that looks like. I would also point out that he told Kadia Goba at the Washington Post in an interview that he would be open to being on Dancing with the Stars. We know that Santos likes the spotlight. We know that he's been making the media rounds. It's hard to know what this looks like going forward. It's only been 2 days, and we'll kind of have to see how dedicated he is to that pursuit.
How dedicated he is to that pursuit, and whether it's prison reform, which is a much more substantial thing, and frankly, an issue that they were able to make progress on in a big legislative way during Trump's first term, or Dancing with the Stars, which I don't think has ever tackled prison reform. But I mean, what is the ripple effect of this on Capitol Hill at a time where there are open questions about ethics violations from the White House, the way that congressmen and women are being held accountable for potential ethics violations of their own? I mean, what is the lesson out of this that the White House is now showing?
Yes, I think that's really striking. Since I got to start covering Congress this year, I think we've seen a lack of real oversight. We've seen kind of backing off of some of the ethics watchdog groups. And I think there's a larger concern that anything like this, where you see somebody get pardoned for admittedly stealing funds from donors, admittedly frauding campaign donors, it might kind of lower the stakes for someone else to consider doing something similar. I also think it's striking to see the division in the Republican Party on this issue. And we saw it when Santos got expelled. But this is a time when the Republicans have been trying to present a unified front against Democrats in the face of a shutdown. And this is a crack, admittedly, on an unrelated issue. But I think there's going to be continued discontent over how this was handled, especially as the midterms approach.
Yeah, it was always striking when I was covering Santos during his time in Congress. And of course, as we were watching his court cases play out concurrently, the ways that his colleagues either wanted to just pretend that it wasn't happening, or those in New York who went directly at the issue. They have been vocal in their displeasure with what the White House has done on this one. It's going to be interesting to see what Santos does next. Michael Gold, thank you, as always, for joining.